welcome to episode 4 of Zero Trust Bytes.
Episode 4?
Bytes.
Wow.
This is the podcast for 2024. If you want to hear anything about Zero Trust, you got to be on Zero Trust Bytes.
That's right.
Listeners.
It's a nice segue into the new year. Episode 4 for 2024. I like that.
Hey, you're what do they call them? A numerologist or what? John, what do they call them? The people that deal with numbers?
Yeah, I think so.
Numerologist, right?
Numerologist?
Numerologist. Guys, welcome. This episode is going to impact you. How? Because we're going to talk a little bit about data management, security, and governance. I'm your host, Miguel. And today we're going to be discussing the Zero Trust data pillar.
Oh, yeah.
This is big.
That's
I
a
like
big one.
the data pillar. Because Zero Trust is supposed to be protecting what?
Our oil.
And
The
what's
data.
the oil? The data, right?
That's right.
That's important. So today we're going to be talking about that, how to safeguard that data. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Microsoft Purview's implementation for the data lifecycle management. We're also going to be talking about data loss prevention, which is a big deal, and we'll kind of have a little segue on DLP.
Ooh, yeah, a good one today.
But guess what? Joining me today is Kamel Kolodeski.
Hello. Good to be back here again.
Excited. Listeners, I want to tell you, we challenged you. We asked you to give us a little a smash that button. I'm trying to be relevant. Subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff.
Let's go.
Because if you do, we're going to give you our Zero Trust champion coin. We have a champion coin for the listeners that can't see it. Maybe we should do a photo. I don't know how we do. How do we get them to see this if they're just listening to us? But anyways, you got to believe me. This is hot. It's a shield that if you literally put it on, I believe you become a data analyst day one. It's advanced Zero Trust framework. It has a shield. It has a 300 logo warrior on there. It has our name, Villatech, or the name of our company. And it was handmade by a veteran company.
Very nice.
So, this is about Zero Trust, cybersecurity in the industry, making sure that our veterans are out there. We support you. We appreciate you, and we thank you for what you've done. I can name a whole bunch of names, but we're not going to do that. But we do have reverence and respect for those that have laid their lives for this country. And what better thing to give them is business and an opportunity to share some of that love with us. So, guys, Kamel, are we ready to do the data pillar?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's do it.
The episode 1 and 2 and 3 were about what pillar?
So I think we started off with identity pillar. We touched upon a little bit on the STP, which does a little bit of the different pillars, right? Doesn't touch one pillar.
Okay.
And then today, it's going to be about the data pillar, which is something we haven't touched too deeply on, but we've mentioned it, how data is very important because Zero Trust is all about the data.
Yes.
It started off as a data-centric model. Now, of course, they're segueing it off to being an identity-centric model, but I think it's still at the core of Zero Trust. We are trying to protect our data.
Yeah. And then identity and data needs to be coalesced together, right? So it's access to the data. Data is the gold, or as you're calling the new oil.
Yep.
And that's good. That's a good analogy. But we need to know, are you who you say you are?
Yes. Assume breach.
Assume breach at all times.
At all times.
You're not, Kamel.
Let me prove it
Hey,
in a various different ways.
Okay. Momola Poliski.
Yeah.
I'm
Say
trying.
habla español.
There you go. Okay, you see, so our Spanish guys are not laughing, but that's okay. Cool.
Yeah, so Miguel, I mean, like I said, data is undoubtedly the most valuable asset for any organization. In today's digital landscape, safeguarding data has become increasingly crucial. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I would definitely agree that organizations store vast amounts of data.
Yep.
And they're learning that they can extract a lot of information and gold from that data. So now it becomes tremendously relevant to your environment now, right?
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, that data is not only your data, sometimes you're collecting customer data.
Exactly.
And if you're collecting customer data, that becomes PII data,
Personal identifiable
information.
Yep.
Right? And so now you're a guardian of that data. Sometimes you may have financial data, and if that's financial services data, that's another SOX environment that you have to make sure that you have to protect that record and that information. But there's also intellectual property data, which is your data, your proprietary data for the warfighter, for the tactical edge. Is how the government is maneuvering and issuing missions, and even the warfighters themselves, where they're at, who they are. That data is very, very important for us to secure. So the vitality of protecting that data and securing that data is what we have to build, and that's what Zero Trust Framework is around, right? It's talking about building an architecture or multiple types of architectures to protect that data. So there's business continuity that we need to protect, intellectual property, your data, customer data, and through that we have to get some information from that data and make informed decisions, right, Kamel?
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, because Zero Trust isn't just one architecture. It's a framework, right? Not one single solution is the correct solution. Not one single vendor is the correct vendor to choose.
Right.
It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing, evolving framework structure that you're going to continue to build upon.
Yes, but we're talking a lot about Microsoft, right? Because that's really the CSP that we decided to kind of focus on. You can't jump all around the world and try to do everything with everyone. So we decided Microsoft is really the main focus, but we're going to talk about some other solutions as well. So I just want to kind of set the stage that no one thinks that, they're Microsoft bigots, and that's not true.
Exactly. And protecting this data is not only essential for maintaining trust with customers, but also for complying with data protection regulations such as GDPR. That's something that the EU is heavily enforcing, and we want to make sure that we're not only following zero trust practices, but actual regulations. So by prioritizing data security, organizations can safeguard their most valuable asset and mitigate the risks associated with it, such as data loss.
There you go. Yeah, so Kamel, that's a good point. You brought up GDPR. We were just onboarded by one of the customers that required a GDPR privacy policy.
Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah, it was extensive,
It's
right?
very extensive, right?
Very extensive. I mean, do you not know that customers have the capability of requesting and requiring you to sanitize their data?
You have to.
There's a lot of steps to go through that. So a mixture of all that. But Kamel, let's talk a little bit about the example.
All right. Let's get to the good stuff.
The example.
Okay.
So how do organizations accomplish this, the ability to protect data?
Yeah, so we touched upon about it already a little bit, but one approach, of course, is for organizations to adopt to safeguard their data is following a zero trust data pillar framework.
Okay.
Now, this aspect of the zero trust framework emphasizes the need to verify and secure every access request. Obviously, you got to assume breach, regardless of whether it originates from inside or outside the organization's network. The other thing is, by focusing on the data pillar of zero trust, organizations can implement robust security measures to protect their data assets. This approach ensures that data is secured regardless of its location, and access is granted based on the principle of least privilege. And by adopting a data-centric approach, organizations can enhance their overall security posture and mitigate the risks associated with data loss.
That's a great point, Kamel. That's a really great point, that The zero trust data pillar is built on the principle of verification, least privilege, micro-segmentation, continuous monitoring, and encryption. Now, when we talk about the zero trust, the data pillar, where are we getting this? Where is this being derived from? Because they're probably hearing us say these data pillars, and like, where do we get that term from? Where's that coming from?
Yeah, so there's a lot of authoritative resources out there, and I think the ones that we follow, and of course, what's Cloud Security Alliance follows, as maybe some of you have not known, but they have the only certification out in the industry, the CCZT, the Certificate of Competency of Zero Trust.
Yeah, you, as you could tell, we do have high degrees in linguistics here, as you could tell, because we are of the highest silver tongues here. So bear with us as we struggle with.
I didn't do my warm-ups today, so I have to practice some of those words.
We're only master degrees. We'll get there. PhD levels kind of conversations, but that's super important. So by implementing these principles, right?
Yep.
Organizations now can ensure that they only have authorized individuals. So we're talking about the identity again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as authorized individuals have access, and they're authorized to access sensitive data, because the data is protected all the time. So rather than just having a firewall rule that has a subnet that says, this network person that's on this network has access to anything in the network, which is the flat network architecture, right? Now, from a networking standpoint, there may be an access layer or a core layer or a distribution layer. So the network engineer, network architect thinks that there's strategy and infrastructure layers to get to that. But at the end of the day, from a policy perspective, the network doesn't care about your identity once you're on that subnet.
Right.
So you have lateral movement.
Yep.
And and you have the ability to kind of manipulate your way around that. This data pillar focus is trying to get you to always verify, are you authorized to touch this information?
Right.
Okay.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because there was another analogy that I thought was very interesting that kind of stuck with me. I know in the first episode we talked about the castle moat story, and then what if there's a carnival and now we got to assume breach kind of thing. And that was a great analogy, and I hope that stuck with some of you viewers out there. But here's a different one I'll paint for you. So Tim Denman, he's the Defense Acquisition University's cybersecurity learning director. He was a part of the portfolio management office with Randy Resnick in the first year of implementing Zero Trust.
A little shout out to Randy.
Hey, Randy.
You better be listening to this stuff. I'm tired of tagging him.
And I thought he brought up a very interesting analogy, and I'm going to paint it for you guys and take it a little deeper, a little different level there. He said that think of Zero Trust like an airport, okay? Passengers are being dropped off and no one is trusted, right? None of those people are trusted.
Okay.
But what's the first level of verification that you get to? Well, there's the security, right? TSA. So do you have an ID? Okay, that's one form. Do you have a boarding pass? That's the second form. Multi-factor authentication.
Nice.
Right?
Good analogy.
The next thing you get to is inspection of your carry-on luggage, of yourself. So think of like deep packet inspection.
Ooh.
We got to see what's inside that luggage.
Ooh.
Is there a water bottle, or is there something else that shouldn't be there?
Yeah.
They'll inspect that.
X-ray.
Okay, yeah. And now you get past that first level of defense, the gatekeeper. STP calls that a gatekeeper, and that could be your first level of verification right there. But once you're inside, what's next? You're continuously being monitored. Cameras, right?
Watching you
They're
all
watching
day.
you all day, right?
We're watching you all day.
And it doesn't matter if you're a passenger or a staff member or a director or whatever. The next level that you got to get to, you got to have a badge or a boarding pass or some other form of identification or verification that you are who you are. So I thought that was a very good analogy, because you passing one level of validation, but you're continuously being verified. You're always assumed a breach. And it doesn't matter if it's you or me or the highest level of authority in an airport. something can happen and that person gets, I don't know, doesn't matter. We got to assume breach at all times.
Yeah, really good analogy of you being in an important environment where there is precious data, and the precious data are the people.
Yes.
Right? So there's human beings that are very precious, all concatenated together in one room, and you need to make sure that whoever's getting in that environment is protected. So is there anything else that you have, Kamel, with the keywords?
Yeah, so I did want to bring up a story that I just found out today, a current trend topic that kind of ties into this whole data pillar aspect. So the Department of Veterans Affairs just went through, I can't believe this even happened, but it seems like there was a shakeup of what happened.
Okay.
And since we're on the topic of data loss prevention, DLP, they actually are going through a transition from one of their solutions to the Microsoft solutions.
Okay.
And because of that, there was they're turning off their DLP program on their endpoints.
Right.
Last year, I think about 1,500 veterans and their personal data, social security numbers, birth certificates, things that are very personal to
PII
individuals,
data
was leaked.
Right.
And now what they're saying, even though they won't, and I don't want to speak on what's going on over there, but they don't want to say that their 18 million veterans' private information is at risk. But we're going through a program transition, and if you're telling me that your DLP program is on pause, that puts the entire Veterans Affairs Office at risk.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what I see here is this story is very fascinating because it actually is a live testimony today of the government trying to do their best to protect, the data by making sure that the DIB, or the Defense Industrial Base, groups of people who are supposed to help them solve problems and bring resolutions and innovate, they're being encouraged. You better get CMMC level 1 or level 2 or level 3 if you're going to be doing something for us. But at the end of the day, internally, they're in shambles, and I think they're doing a good job in the office of the CIO by preaching and evangelizing the zero trust strategy that is going to be mandated, and they're going to be, everyone's going to be under pressure to meet those deadlines and to be authorized to operate in a safe environment.
Yep, totally agree. And I think the Veterans Affairs, they're doing what they can in their strategies to move towards a zero trust framework. So whether that's eliminating one solution because it didn't meet their needs, they are moving towards other solutions. I mean, we're going to talk about one today, which is Microsoft Purview, because they have a Microsoft enterprise level agreement with them where there's other strategies that can protect their data.
Yeah.
So I think we're in good hands. Veterans Affairs Office, it's just there's a risk, and the risk is being known, and we understand that. So we're here to help them.
Good. So well done. Thank you for the real world story. We're not just talking about fake scenarios. That's a real life testimony of actually what's happening in the industry. And now let's shift our focus to Microsoft Purview and implementing their data lifecycle management solution.
Yeah, so Microsoft Purview, let's talk about it a little bit. So Purview offers a comprehensive set of features and capabilities to help organizations effectively manage their data assets throughout their lifecycle. It enables organizations to discover and catalog their data assets across various sources. Additionally, Purview provides data classification and tagging capabilities, which is something we'll go into a demonstration later today.
Nice.
But allowing organizations to classify their data based on predefined sensitive data types or create custom classifiers tailored to their specific needs.
Nice.
So this classification helps in data governance and compliance efforts.
Good job, Kamel. Now let's talk a little bit about that data loss prevention and how Purview can help us in this area of this data pillar that we're focusing on.
Yeah, so data loss prevention is a critical aspect of data security. We already talked about it earlier today that Data is the new gold, the new oil, intellectual property, sensitive information. We don't want that to be leaked. We don't want that to be deleted unintentionally, even if they did intentionally, right? How do we make sure that we don't lose that valuable data? So it involves implementing measures to prevent the unauthorized disclosure or leakage of sensitive data or even data loss. Purview can help organizations in their DLP efforts by providing visibility into data usage and identifying potential risks or vulnerabilities.
Okay.
It can detect and alert organizations about suspicious activities or policy violations because assuming breach, right? What if there's a malicious user that's laterally moving around that organization?
Yeah.
We want to be able to see that.
Exactly.
We want to be able to detect it. Even if that person is an employee today, but is doing something maliciously that we don't know yet.
Exactly.
How can we track that? How can we audit that?
That's the traceability component, okay?
Correct. So in the upcoming demo, I will be showing a creation of a data lifecycle management label and label policies with the prevention of data loss by not allowing a file to be deleted due to the set retention policy. This demo will be a unique one as we introduce a different method of automating the implementation of these policies, and that's us using Structura, but with PowerShell.
Ooh, that's interesting. I like the word Structura. Structura is our tool that we use to automate. When you have large enterprise environments and you want to take these architectures and you want to take these attributes and these policies and you want to roll them out, you can't do them all by hand, right?
Ugh, please no.
Well, you know,
It'll take forever.
they are those archaic network security engineers that we were once part of. That, you know, job security is all about, nope, I'm going to do it myself and I got it. It's going to take a month or a couple of weeks, but I'll get this done. And they staying all night trying to do things on their own, wasting energy and time on getting a project implemented.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the job security perspective was look at what I'm doing, rather than taking advantage of automation, right? And the bots and the co-pilots that are out there that can actually augment and speed up your work. But, you know, neither here nor there. That is a really great, interesting take, a good example, Kamel, on how you could take automation to do something that may have been something that an architect or an engineer would spend a lot of time in doing from the GUI perspective, correct?
Yeah, correct, definitely. And, you know, of course, as we go through these activities, we tend to discover a lot of new methods, trial and error of what works, what doesn't work, because we understand that every organization is different.
Correct.
And not only that, they may not choose to go down that route. What if we don't want to have a sign-in page with MFA? How are you going to be able to deploy that script through a pipeline? Well, you have to do something like an unattended script, for example.
Nice.
Or what is the other method that we can try to do? Well, we have to do like an app registration. We need to authenticate this process, which is a part of the whole Zero Trust framework. But how can we implement Zero Trust policies into a process? Well, app registration, put some RBAC, role-based access controls, into that registration or registered app. So instead of having a sign-in page, an individual user, and MFA, which is still multi-factor authentication with Zero Trust policies, I need a different method. CI/CD pipeline, ticketing systems, right? We need to authorize this. It's not just you or me. We need a team to say, yeah, we authorize this change through a ticketing system, through authority, through logging, through monitoring, auditable activities.
It's interesting. Another good point, Kamel. That's good. Let's consider a different method of deploying automation with these activities and what needs to be done. Show how do we get into the point where they get to see, for those listeners that are listening.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to just listen, but if you go to our Structura web channel and you like and subscribe and smash that button and do all that goodness, you're going to see a live demo. I think it's something to hop from the podcast Audible to see the visual.
Yeah, that's right. I would highly recommend and suggest for everyone to take a look at the demonstrations, because we do go into a variety of different products and vendors that we've already touched upon. Microsoft Azure being one of them, Purview being today the one that we're going to be doing, but we've done some other vendors in the past, and we're going to continue to do so. So let's get right into it and show a demonstration of automating a data lifecycle management policy. All right, welcome to another demonstration of automating zero trust activities. In this demonstration, we'll be going through Microsoft Purview and automating the creation of labels and publishing those labels in a retention policy in Microsoft Purview, specifically for the data lifecycle management component in Microsoft Purview, which in this case we'll be creating some retention policies to put on labels, so those labels can be applied to, which in this example will be using a Word document in our SharePoint site, applying a label to not allow a document to be deleted within a certain specific time. So let's jump right into it and get to our Structura workspace. As you can see here, we have already a variable for the label list and the policy list. Now we're going to do this a little differently today. We're actually going to invoke a PowerShell script using two data sources that we identified here in our variables, and that is our variable list or our policy list and our label list. So let's take a look at that before we kick things off. As you can see here, I'm going to be creating a label called do not delete to test, and we already made some configurations here for what kind of retention policy it's going to be, which in this case is to keep the record and delete it after 2 years or 730 days. And then we're going to publish that label by using this policy configuration for publishing this label. Okay, so let's go into our Azure environment first, just to see what this looks like before we kick things off. As you can see here, this is our list of the current labels, and we don't have the label that I have in our spreadsheet created yet. And then also in our label policies, you can see that publish retention policy is also not in this list here. So let's go ahead and go back to our workspace, and I'm going to kick things off by running a plan first, and then I'll go ahead and run the apply. Now we are doing a small list, just doing one label and one retention policy. I'll get to a larger list later, which will do about 10 policies and 10 labels at the same time. The neat thing about this as well, that just to mention, as you can see here, the sign-in page popped up, is we're invoking a continuous verification with our Zero Trust initiative to ensure that when we're invoking a PowerShell script, that we are authenticating with the environment before we kick things off. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my credentials, and now it's been authorized with the environment and the script is running. We're just going to let that run through and make sure that our single label and the single policy gets executed correctly. Alright, so it looks like it's nearing the end of the script here that we had invoked here. So we'll just wait until we get the completion status, which we just got right there. So let's go back to our Microsoft Purview dashboard and hit the refresh button and see what it looks like now. And that's great, because now I can see that our policy to test is actually in the list there, as you can see right here. And then let's go to our labels list and refresh the page here and see if that to test also came in, and yes, we can see it here as well. So now what I'm going to do is actually do a lot more labels and publishing policies. So let's take a look at the list that we have here. So I have 10 policies that we're going to publish, and then the list of labels that I have, you can see here
that I also have a list of 10 labels that we're going to kick off. Trying to do this manually in the dashboard will take some time, so having an ability to create this in an Excel spreadsheet with its unique features, and then having Structura invoke that in an automated way saves a lot of time and effort. So let's go ahead and go back to our workspace, and what I'll do is I have the larger set here ready to go. I just need to copy it over into my data sources folder. Let's replace that, and then I want to destroy this because I want to create the second list of the larger set that I have. So let's get rid of the first one that we kicked off. So we have the plan ready to go, and then I'll go ahead and run the apply so we can invoke the second set with Structura. Now, of course, it's going to ask me to authenticate again, which is great. I'll type in my credentials, and then let's have the script run through creating the 10 labels and the 10 policies to publish. This may take a little bit longer because we do have a larger list, so let's give it a little bit more time before we go back into the Purview dashboard to verify that it did go through. After this is done, I'll do a test on a document that I have in our SharePoint, just a test demo SharePoint, where we'll actually apply the label and show that the label is enforcing the retention policy. And if I try to delete that file, it will tell me that it is blocked by policy, which we'll get to in just a moment. So let's see where we're at here. It looks like it's still creating the labels. The 10th label was just created because I can see that in our console output right there. And looks like it's now starting to create the different publishing of the policies. And there's the third one, so almost done, about halfway done with the second list there. It should be completing here any moment now. But as you can see, that having to do this in an automated fashion is a lot faster than having to click through the dashboard and creating these individually, because these wizards in the purview of creating a label and a retention policy goes through several steps before it gets completed for just one single task that you are doing. Okay, so I think we're at number 8 now, so we'll just give it another moment for it to finish up. Alright, so there's, I believe, the 9th one, and then number 10 should be kicking off here in just a moment. Alright, so we're almost done with essentially creating 20 resources, and there we go. Now it's been completed. Let's go back to our dashboard here and click the refresh button, and we should have a much larger list. So 25 items, that's definitely a lot larger than we had before. I'm just going to sort this to make it easier to view, and yes, you can see that our 10 labels were created here on the bottom. Let's go to our label policies and refresh this page as well. Initially we had 12 items, now we have 22, which is correct because we did an additional 10 of these policies, and you can see that the 10 have been created here with Structura. So this is great. I was able to create 20 resources simply by updating my spreadsheet and having Structura invoke the creation with the script. Now, the piece that we wanted to just test is, and just keep in mind that it does take some time for these policies to be enabled. As you can see here, that it is going to be in a pending state. So we're going to use a label that we had created before and enforce that on the document that we have. Now I'm going to go to a test document and just supply a label on here. I can use this do not delete because we want to retain it for 2 years. Okay, and you can see that this lock icon was not there before. Now we do have it there. Let's try to delete this file and see what happens. And there you go. It says this operation has been disabled by policy, which is exactly what we want, because we want to retain this document per the policy, which in this case is for 2 years. All right. Well, that's all the demo for today. I thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.
Thank you, Kamel, for showing us an example of how Microsoft Purview can help organizations in their data lifecycle management and data loss prevention efforts, and also sharing your insights, which are very good. You're hands-on, you're in it, you're the one cooking, so it's always good to get the perspective of the cook, because the cook knows what's dirty and what's clean. Just don't be spitting in that food.
Is that the assumed breach?
That's the assumed breach. I can't trust the cook too.
You
know what I'm saying? Yeah, so safeguarding our data. It's very clear that data security is top priority for organizations. We talked a little bit about the VA, so that should be top of mind for them.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit on how Purview can offer a robust set of features to address these challenges, right? So
yep, absolutely, Miguel. Safeguarding data and implementing effective data management protection measures are ongoing processes. We already said this earlier, that nothing is set in stone. It's an evolving practice. We're going to continue to adapt. We're going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to make better practice decisions. So organizations must stay vigilant and proactive in their data security efforts to ensure the integrity and confidentiality of their data.
Nice. Excellent point, Kamel. Well, that's all we have time for today. Listeners, we want to thank you. We hope you found this discussion important to you. If you're subscribing and you're listening in, it's important. So
smash it.
You better like this. But I hope you found this discussion about safeguarding your data valuable. We're trying to talk a little bit more about the zero trust data pillar, so we're moving away from some of the other pillars, and Kamel explained a little bit on where we're getting the whole concept of the pillars from, right?
Yep.
And so Microsoft Purview's implementation for data lifecycle management and data loss prevention, that was very informative and valuable. Thank you for joining us. And on this episode 4 of Zero Trust Bytes, and stay tuned for more episodes where we're going to explore the latest trends. We're going to show you a demo. We're going to show automation on top of it.
Yep.
And we're going to give you real-world insights on how Zero Trust can be implemented for your organizations. Kamel, you got any closing remarks for our viewers?
I sure do. So remember, your data is valuable, and protecting it is very essential. In the world of cybersecurity, trust no one and embrace zero trust. Until next time, stay secure.